An arsenal is defined as a place where weapons are made and stored, or it may refer to the group of weapons themselves. Today we continue compiling our cyber weapons, our hacker's arsenal. Each week we will discuss a new hacker tool, some well known, some underground. I will show you how to obtain them and demonstrate when and how to use them. Today on Hacker's Arsenal, we use a tool for subdomain recon and start our arsenal. All right, hey, welcome back, hackers. I got a good one for you here today. So today we're going to be talking about subdomain listing, enumeration, and reconnaissance on domains. So this should probably be a pretty old hat for some of the more experienced people, but I think I've got a tool for you here that you've probably never seen before, and one that's really replaced everything in my toolkit. And for those that are kind of getting into security or new into this field, just want to really quickly talk about why subdomain listing and enumeration and reconnaissance is so important. So as a pen tester, or if you're going to go after a bug bounty, or you're starting an assessment, a lot of times you're just given a domain, right? So you're given domain.com. Can you let us know if there are any vulnerabilities on that site or anything like that? I'm not gonna say that there aren't any vulnerabilities on a main.com website. Of course there are. But if you're just starting out, you should really do some reconnaissance and see if there's any other services or any other domains that maybe haven't been tested in the past, maybe have been forgotten, or maybe just are have kind of flown under the radar for some time. And hey, as a defender, we can kind of tell the maturity of an attacker based upon the amount of reconnaissance they've done on their target. If they're coming at us, shotgun spraying all over the place, we kind of get a sense that they're kind of hoping and praying. But if they have done a lot of research, really understood the target, had a plan for attack, and then executed that attack, that really shows a very mature adversary or assessor. So one of the things before we get started, I kind of want to talk about the cyber kill chain and these tools. Make sure we kind of touch on where they kind of fit. It's a series of 7 steps that most cyber attacks go through. And you can really kind of determine where your adversary is at, where to build your defenses, those kind of things. So today we're going to be sticking with reconnaissance, so the first step in the kill chain. The reconnaissance phase is for research, identification, and selection of targets. And today we're going to be looking at a tool that really helps us out with identification of targets. Now, there's been a lot of development in tools for finding subdomains, but today we're going to look at a tool that automates and brings in the best features from all these different tools, brings it all together and makes it really easy for us to run. That does DNS enumeration, so anything from brute forcing to reverse DNS, subdomain permutations, zone transfers, as well as doing some scraping. And this is where the real power of this tool comes in. So it'll scrape different search engines such as Ask, Baidu, Bing, Google, as well as use some of the web apps that a lot of you are probably familiar with, such as DNS Dumpster, Census, DNS Table, etc. It also has the ability to pull certificates and extract domains from them as well. And then again, just to continue on with the power of this tool, you can extend it with some APIs with some of the other research tools that are available to us. Now, we're not going to be really touching on that today, but all the other things we're going to. So today we're going to learn amass. Okay, so let's get started. So what I've got here is this is our Win 10 box, exactly as we left it from the last video. This is a Windows 10 install with Kali running on it. And the reason why I want to do it this way is I think it's easier especially for those that are getting started in security, that we have a strong foundation that we're all kind of working from, right? And so as I'm going through this, you can see any of the challenges that I have, any of the problems that I have. how I fix them, how I bypass them, those kind of things. That way, if you're wanting to play with the tool, you don't really have to mess around with making sure that the base operating system is working as you want it. This way, I'll be walking you through each one of those steps. So hey, if I need to make some configuration options or some changes or add any additions to this computer in order to make these tools work, I'll make sure I include those in these videos so that it works for you too. And today we're going to be using amass. And in fact, we're going to be installing amass on our Windows system, and I'll explain why here shortly. So, okay, so let's jump in. Let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to download amass, and we can get it from their GitHub page. So, wow, props to the dev team here. This is what a GitHub page should look like. This page has so much documentation. They go through how to install the tool. They give you examples. They show you some example outputs, some tests. It's a really well done page, and I really appreciate the effort that the dev team put in here. Okay, and like I was talking about earlier, you can kind of see some of the capabilities this tool can do here in this section right here. So let's go install it. So if you scroll down, there's definitely a lot of different ways you can install this. We're just going to go ahead and download the binary release. So we can just actually go to the releases here. This is in the link bottom right. And at the time of this recording here, you can see that the latest release is 3.5.5, which was released 10 days ago. Hey, your version may be different when you're watching this video. Just go ahead and install whichever one is the latest. The way we're going to do that, we're just going to scroll down here, and these are the list of compiled binaries for different systems. We're going to choose the Windows AMD 64. The reason why we're doing that is one, we're going to be using the Windows version, and this is a 64-bit system, so we're going to choose that. We're just going to click open, and there we go. We're going to click extract and then extract all. Now I'm going to put this, and in fact I'm going to put all the tools that we use, a subdirectory C:\tools. And I'll kind of explain why I'm doing that later. You'll kind of make sense. But in order to do that, I'm just going to delete what it had there. And I'm just going to C:\tools and extract. Okay. So once it's done, it's going to open this window and show you that it created this folder here under C:\tools. Now, I really like to keep my folders real tight and tidy. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this here, right click, rename, and I'm just going to call this amass. Now, you don't have to do this. I personally really like it just to have it nice and tight. But you can see now that we do have a Windows executable in a directory C:\tools amass. Great. Hey, we're almost done. Let's get playing with it. Okay, so this is I'm going to go ahead and close out all these windows here, and let's go into Kali. All right, so we're in our Kali box here a little bit. I'm going to make the font a little bit larger, so hopefully it's a little bit easier to see. I appreciate the comments on that from the first video. Okay, so first let's go see where that tool is installed. We can actually get to our C:\tools directory from our Linux install by CD. That stands for change directory. We go to mount mnt C for a C drive, and then tools, and then you'll see that directory that we created just a minute ago, amass. If I go into amass, you can see it's all there. The executable, the documentation, examples, license, etc. It's worth mentioning the Kali install that we did in the first episode already has amass installed. Look, if we were to do a which amass, it'll show that we've already got it installed in our Linux system. However, because of some limitations in the version 1 of the Windows Linux subsystem, it doesn't work properly. For example, if I were to do amass enum for enumeration, the domain, and I don't know, let's do zoom.us, because why not? right? So it fails. So what I'm going to do, just to keep everything nice and clean, is I'm going to go ahead and remove that amass. I'm going to do that by doing sudo, which changes user to the administrative or root user, apt, which is our package manager, remove amass, and authenticate here. And yes, I want to remove it. Now, it's worth mentioning here, especially if you don't have a whole lot of experience with Linux, what we're doing is we're removing the amass package from our Linux install. So it's not going to touch any of the files that we've created with our Windows install just a minute ago. In fact, you can see I'm still here in this directory. If I were to do an ls, you can see that it's still there. Hey, all right. We could either run this amass executable from a Windows terminal, but I prefer to work out of the Linux terminal because it's where a lot of the tools that we're going to be using later are. And so I'm going to go ahead and tell the Linux terminal how to run the Windows command. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create an alias for the term amass, and I'm going to do alias. And then amass, that's the command that I want to run. And then, hey, when I type amass, what do I want my Linux system to execute? So I'm going to do a single quote and then a double quote. And then I'm going to give it this directory, so /mount /c/tools /amass, and then amass.exe, and then with a closing double quote and then a closing single quote. So now I've just created an alias in my Linux system, and essentially what that means is, hey, when I type amass, I want you to run that command. And because I want that to persist in this, I'm going to go ahead and add that command to my bashrc file. If any of this doesn't make any sense, just follow along. We're not going to be making any changes that will really harm your system, but hey, you might research what we're doing if you've never done this before. So quick little Linux tip. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to echo and then use the double exclamation points, which means the command that I previously typed. So I'm going to echo the previous command that I typed, and then I'm going to use the double greater than symbol that says add it to the end of, right? So don't overwrite the file, but just add it to the end of, and then the tilde symbol, which says my home directory, and then my bashrc file. Okay, great. Now, so if we were to look at that bashrc file, so if I were to cat my home directory.bashrc, you can see down here at the bottom, it's added amass. So let's go ahead and let's change directories back to our home directory. You can see that I'm in home HackersArsenal, and let's run amass and see if everything worked. Hey, it did great. Now, I mentioned that that we can change directory to that Windows directory, no problem. But it's not as clean as I like it. So before we really jump into amass, let's just do a little bit of homework on our Linux system here, and let's create a symlink over to that Windows directory. That makes it pretty easy for us to get to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type ln -s, and then that directory is /mount c tools, and then create the symlink is in my home directory. I want to create a tools directory. Great. Okay, so now if we were to change directory to our home directory, we're already there, but let's do it anyway, and do an ls/la. You'll see that there is now a folder called tools, which points over to this C:, or the mount C tools. So if I just change directory to tools, you'll see that we're there. Hey, that worked great. All right, so let's jump into amass real quick. So before we get started, I think it's really important that we talk about permission authorization before we do any testing. Now, in the reconnaissance phase, we're not necessarily going to be taking any malicious steps against our target. We're not going to be doing any compromise or any hacking today. We're truly just going to be doing some recon. Never hack anything that you don't have permission to hack. So one of the things that I like to do before I get started playing with a new tool or testing, those kind of things, is go out and look for a company that's very security forward, has a bug bounty that gives me the scope they permit. And there's a lot of different bug bounty companies out there. You can research there. Maybe we'll touch on them later. But I came across AT&T. So AT&T recently joined with the HackerOne platform, and they have a pretty wide scope. And kudos to you, AT&T. I very happy to see that the telcos and AT&T you're coming along with the bug bounty program, and I hope it pays off in dividends for you guys. So good job. So, but you can read through their bug bounty program. Kind of goes through their guidelines, what they allow, what they don't allow. And just make sure that you're staying in line with the bounty before you get started. Now, the reason I like to do this is, hey, if I'm going to be learning a new tool or testing a new tool, first of all, I don't want to cause anybody harm, right? What if I find something? Right. So what if I find a vulnerability? Wouldn't it be great if I got a bounty along with that? So I'm going to use AT&T. You can use whatever company you want to use. So let's walk through the tool real quick. So again, right now I'm in the tools directory. I'm going to change back to my home directory, so you can see I'm in the HackersArsenal home directory. I'm going to run amass enum. That stands for enumeration. Now. Amass has some other plugins or other tools that they have, and they're well documented on their on the GitHub page. And I really suggest that you check them out after you're done testing out the enum. We're going to do active. That's going to take a look at certificates, any subdomains that are there. We're also going to enable the brute. Now, if you're not familiar with subdomain brute forcing, it works very similar to any other kind of brute force. So say that we've got a domain, and in this case, att.com. We want to check a series of commonly known subdomains. So like www.att.com or www1 or www2, those kind of things, backup, live, those kinds of things. And so the brute forcing that amass does will go through a lot of common subdomains. Now, another very powerful thing that amass does is it allows for permutation. So if it's going through its brute and it finds www1, it'll try www2. It'll permute that number, or this DNS enumeration tool has replaced everything in my toolkit. This is the one to use. Then we want to store our results. So now there is some other results options here. I'll let you read into those on the GitHub page, but we're just going to do a -o and pipe the results to a text file. So I'm going to call it att.txt. And then we do a -d to say this is the domain, and we're going to do att.com. Now this is going to take a second, just a second, but what it's going to do is it's going to go start scraping. So it's going to go scrape those search engines, those sites looking for subdomains. You can see that it just came back with some of the querying that it's doing. Then it's going to just start running through the results. It's going to be doing the brute forcing. It's going to be doing the permutations, and depending on the size of your target. I chose a very large ISP. This could take hours. So just let it run and see what it can find. Now, while it's doing that, I want you to think about what are you going to do with these results, right? And so we'll get into this later with other tools that we're looking at. But how about you? I'd really like to hear in the comments below, what do you plan to do with the results that you find here? I showed the kill chain earlier. As a blue teamer, how would you detect somebody doing this, right? So is there anything that we could do to detect somebody trying a reconnaissance attack against us or an open source threat intelligence attack against us? Let me know if you have any creative ideas in the comments. I'd really like to hear. Okay, so while this is running, and I know from experience, I've run this a couple times before recording the video. I want to show you some tools that we can use on the results. It's just something interesting. So I'm just going to go ahead and start another Kali window here. Okay, we're already in our home directory, so you can see that I'm in my home directory, and this is where we put the output of the amass tool. Now it's still running. It's not done. You can kind of see it there in the background, but we can look at the results. So you can see att.txt is there. So I'm going to use a command called WC that stands for word count, and I'm going to take a look at att.text, and you can see that already that I found 858 domains. So the first column is how many lines are in the file, and in this case, it's going to be one domain per line. The next two are not too relevant to us. In this case, the next one is the number of words, and then the next would be the number of characters. Not too relevant for us here, but if we were running again, well, it hasn't found any additional since we looked. But hey, as it's running through, you'll see that number increase. Okay, we can actually take a look at that file while it's still running. So let's just use less att.text. You can kind of see the domains that it's found already. You can kind of scroll down using the arrow keys or spacebar by pages. Kind of move around this file. But as you can see, this tool, it's only been running for a couple minutes, and it's found some pretty interesting things. I don't know exactly what any of these domains are yet. I mean, so we'll get there. But you can see that this tool's pretty powerful. So every week on Hackers Arsenal, we're going to cover a new hacking tool, when to use it, how to use it, why to use it. And, these videos should be pretty short and sweet. And hopefully we'll let you build your arsenal. Hey, in the comments, I'd really be interested to hear, did you find anything interesting? What do you plan to do with these results? And hey, I'd really love it if you hit me up on social media, Twitter, tag me with #HackersArsenal. Let me know if there's any tools that you'd like me to cover. If maybe you're a developer of a tool and would like to get some additional exposure, or hey, what's the first thing in your toolbox that you normally go to? I'd really like to hear. And if I cover it, I'll give you a shout out for letting me know about it.